in those days, to be a real Wall Street guy, you need to move to New York. Well, I didn't want to do that because you couldn't be a horse guy from New York. For 3 years in a row, the S&P 500 went down every single day for 3 years in a row, double digits for 3 years in a row. So again, you talk about how demoralizing can it be to every day come into work, come into office, and you're basically not making anybody money, arguably even losing them money. I never want to blame anybody else for my success or failure. I'll give credit to more people than I'll take credit myself, but I never want to blame anybody else for my, lack of success.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. I'm excited about today. I've got Chad Bushaw on, and just talking a little bit before the podcast and listening to a little bit of his story. I know it seems like we got a lot in common. He said that all he's ever wanted to do is be a horse trainer and a rancher and a cowboy, and just went about it in a kind of roundabout way. It's kind of the same way I'm going about it. So how's it going? Glad to have you on.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we always start, I think we got a lot to cover. You're a wealth manager, financial advisor. You've got the Crown Ranch now. You're selling high dollar horses. You've got the cattle ranch going on, real estate development. A lot of stuff. But we always start, with your background, where you came from. I know you moved down here. You're not actually from here, but tell us about growing up, where you're from, and all that.
You bet. So I moved all over the country. Was born in Missouri, lived in Wyoming, lived in Montana, but primarily grew up in Eastern Oregon. So my parents were school teachers in Eastern Oregon. My dad was head football coach in a little town, Long Creek. Long Creek's about 90 miles south of Pendleton, and population 243. So my parents were my school teachers, and it's
hard to get away with stuff when they're your teachers.
Absolutely. But just have the most amazing parents you could ever imagine, and had a great, just loved everything about Eastern Oregon and people I met and relationships. And
is that part, I know, I can't remember exactly how it's divided up, but is that kind of ranch country right there too?
Very much so. Very much so. You were either you were a rancher or you were a logger. Those were pretty much the only two professions in that part of the state. And so, and with my parents being, or school teachers, I guess, was the third profession. But so my dad, every kid that he coached, he obviously was very close with, and they were either they cut logs and timber for a living, or they ran cows and ranched and did that for a living. So I think between the two, being a rancher was a whole lot more fun, and working cows and things was a whole lot more fun than cutting logs. So I gravitated towards the ranching side pretty early, and just was a horse nut growing up, and loved the just the lifestyle, the Western heritage, the rodeo. You're probably the same, but could still probably sing you every word of every Chris Ledoux song that was ever recorded, and could play them all on my guitar back then. I wish I could still play them. No good anymore. But anyway, grew up in Oregon and got the horse bug early. And
was your family involved in horses or ranching or anything?
Not really. Way back, my my mother, there was the original Crown Ranch was in my mother's family. So, but several generations back, and they had sold the ranch when she was very, very young. So she didn't really grow up a ranch kid at all. But it was, that Crown Ranch was very, I guess embedded in our family and our lives, and lots of good stories about them growing up. And but we certainly weren't cowboys or ranchers or anything like that. But
But all your friends and stuff you hung out with, were they ranch kids, I guess?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a cool thing that Fred Whitfield was saying on Clinton's podcast. Fred Whitfield's one of the greatest calf ropers there ever was. And he was saying that how he got into it was just one of his childhood buddies was a calf roper. So he just hung out with him. That kid was roping calves, so he started roping calves. And it's crazy to think that just somebody, it's just because he was around that guy. He said if he would have been a team roper, or, whatever he would have been, Fred would have followed in those footsteps.
Yep. Yeah, I think I actually, my dad had a Western Horseman book on cutting, and that was kind of my first introduction to cutting. And it, again, just pictures and black and white sketches and things, because it was a long time ago. But I thank God it was it was a book on cutting and not jumping or equestrian or something that I maybe wouldn't have been good at or wouldn't have enjoyed. Or so I had some people looking over me that cutting horse book was the one that piqued my interest. So.
And were there any cutters or performance horse rodeo people or anything around there, or just mainly just stay at home ranch?
Mainly just hardworking, good ranching type people. But I've told this story before, and many have heard it. But my mother, when I was in the third grade, she took us on a class field trip to the Oxbow Ranch, which was in Prairie City, Oregon, which is it's about 30 miles from where I grew up and went to school there in Long Creek. And of course, that was owned by a guy, Dan Lufkin, who was one of the most, influential, even famous Wall Street just legends. He was the founding partner of Donaldson, Lufkin, Jenrette, that ended up being the first investment bank to ever go public in our country and trade on the stock exchange. And so he had, I want to say it was about an 80,000 acre ranch there. And at the time, he would have big production sales up there. He had some, fabulous horse trainers, Bobby Nelson, Jolene Nelson, Mike Hack. I mean, he had some just as big a program as there was anywhere in the country. But of course, he had some presence in Texas, but also the bulk of it was there in Oregon. So had probably more daughters of Doc Barr and Doc Alina than anybody at one time. And so he would have a big production sale, and people would fly in from all over the country, all over the world for that production sale. And so I got to see that, I guess when I was in the third grade, like I said, and I just fell in love with every aspect of it, from the pretty horses to the physicalness of a cutting horse, to the people, to the culture.
Was it just like I'm just trying to picture it in my mind. Was it just like a dream place? You just pull in grass and everywhere and awesome horses and arena and all that stuff?
Yeah. At the time, I had never been to Disneyland or Disney World, but it literally was, Disney World for a horse kid. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was certainly nothing like, there was nothing like that in anywhere close to anywhere other parts of the county or the state up there at that time. So it was way ahead of its time.
And did that trigger, like, how do I get this, or like
it? Again, I think back. I think back on that, and I think it triggered me in a lot of ways that I'm probably just now realizing at my twilight years. But I think that seeing the horses, seeing the and again, his focus was on the broodmare band, and that's become a focus of mine all these years later. He used to have big production sales and, fancy marketing and brochures and flyers and things like that. And to me, he did an outstanding job of branding that Oxbow. That Oxbow brand is world famous now, much like, the King Ranch or the 4.6s or some of the legendary Texas ranches here. But that Oxbow Ranch is just, it's known for quality. The brand of quality, I think, was even the logo that he used. But it really inspired me on the horse side. But I think in a twisted sort of way, Dan being a finance guy and an investment guy and a Wall Street guy, I think that kind of triggered me to, starting to look at investments at a very young age, starting to be more business minded. And then thankfully I had the absolute wonderful fortune to meet Dan later on, as I think I was a teenager then, but he used to come to some club cuttings up there in Oregon, and that's kind of where I started off, probably in 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that. And so I would go to these club cuttings on, horses that you and I wouldn't even own today probably, or, let alone throw a leg over. But I, for whatever reason, he took a liking to me, and I was pretty infatuated with him. And he was, he's still alive today. He took a liking for me, and he didn't take me under his wing. That's too strong. I mean, it would be mischaracterizing our relationship, but we would visit. And again, I was just a kid, and he was a Wall Street titan, but he was very, very kind to me, and gave me some great advice. And again, I just wanted to train horses and ride horses. That's all I ever wanted to do. But he really gave me some sound wisdom and advice, and tried to make sure I went to school and college, and then later on, even in college, so he was responsible for getting me some of my first job interviews even. So again, a guy that I was an absolute minnow to him, and he was as powerful at that time and still is. I mean, a very influential man, but he literally, he gave me attention that I certainly didn't deserve, but he changed my life for the better, for sure. So
I think there's a couple good points in there. One, to be exposed that young to something like that to chase after, and then two, to actually be able to get to talk to the guy a little bit about how he, how it all got put together, and kind of sounds like he wasn't a direct mentor, but in some sense a mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As close a thing as I had to a mentor.
Yeah.
So I don't think he realized it at the time, but he would, of course, he would send me, letters, whether it was on his, investment bank, DLJ letterhead, or it was on Oxbow, but I had those letters. I'm sure my mother still has them somewhere, but I would have those letters framed in my office with, chatter covers with Bill Freeman on there and people like that. And so I was just a horse nut forever. And, but I do credit him with, again, with the benefit of hindsight. He really helped shape a lot of my outlook on the world, I guess, as far as trying to go figure out a way to, be successful in other areas, so I could come back and have success in the horse world, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So after that visit in third grade, what did your life look like? Did you go try to help some other horse trainers, kind of work for anybody through school, or what was your? Did you own some horses and actually go to cuttings, or?
Yeah, not own some horses, but my dad, and still to this day, he's an auction junkie, and he loves horses and loves animals, and so we would probably not very many people listening to this will know, but I think it's still to this day. There's a Bonnie's horse sale in Hermiston, Oregon, and several times a year they would have these big horse sales, and people would come from all the surrounding states, and they would sell, hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of horses. And we, again, my dad's such a great man. He bought, if it would reference that this horse was a cutting horse in the description, boy, he would. And again, these are, $300 horses, $400 horses,
just like some trader horses.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And again, I would never let my kids do what my parents let me do. I mean, you'd buy these horses, and somehow we'd get them home, and literally here I was, 10, 12 years old, didn't really know anything about riding horses, and I'd go, somehow get the saddle on and somehow get it on correct, and then I would just go to riding them. Who does that, right? I would never let my kids do that. My wife would. I mean, that would be there's zero chance of that, right?
Yeah.
And here I did. So again, I give my parents I can't give them enough credit for just enabling that lifestyle. And again, that they were on school teacher salaries, mind you, that they were
Sounded
able
like
to.
he was trying to help you as much as he could.
And they did.
Yeah.
And they did. But that led to, through some of the people that we met at various horse sales and club cuttings, and then that led to an introduction to a guy that, again, changed my life forever, Stuart Guthrie, and he's since passed. But he was a cutting horse trainer from up in the Hermiston, Oregon area. And I literally, the summer of between my 7th and 8th grade year and between my 8th grade and freshman year in high school, I went and spent my summers with him. And again, you have to remember, this is back before email, back before the internet, back before cell phones. So again, something that I would be too selfish with my boys to ever let them go do that. But to my parents' credit, I wanted it so bad, and they let me go basically live with this man, Stuart and Gloria. Yeah, lovely, lovely people.
It seems like that used to be kind of common you'd hear about, kids either used to go to summer camps all summer or go live with their grandparents or uncle or something. And I'm the same way with our little girl. I'm like, I don't want to just ship her off. I mean, it's probably beneficial, but it's like, dang, I want to spend that time.
Yeah. I'm as a parent, I'm too selfish, I think, with my boys. I don't want to share them. I joke with my mother-in-law, who's just an amazing woman as well, but like I'm too selfish. I don't even want to share my boys with her. And of course, my boys, that's their favorite thing in life, is to go down there to the ranch.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that I still remember vividly well, him explaining to me what a lead was. So here I thought I was a pretty good cowboy and pretty ranchy and knew the drill, right?
Before we get into that, like those horses, the horses from the horse sale, were they like, did you get a bunch of broncs or anything like bad, or were they like some old crippled horses, or some of them are pretty decent, or how?
Decent's too strong a word, but not broncs, not evil,
nothing that tried to kill you.
No. Again, just I think I had someone was looking out over me, because again, it wasn't, my dad, I don't know that he knew, right? And you don't, I'm sure somebody told him and he did his homework, but you don't ever know.
Right.
And again, when you're at the lower end of the market like that, there's just no telling. But no, really, I never got in any bad wrecks or had, I'm sure I had plenty run off and go through fences and all the things that all people experience. But, thank God had no major no major meltdowns.
Go back. You were learning about leads.
Yeah, he had again, he was such a patient man, and he basically had to start over, right? Had to teach me how to properly feed a horse, the nutrition. Just was a good horseman. And there's a big difference between a horse trainer and a horseman. And so that early on, I think I learned, I guess from the ground up, that there is a difference. And I think I don't know that he taught me to be a great cutting horse rider, let's say, but he was more focused on being a good horseman. And as you know, that's as important, as maybe even more important than being a good horse trainer or rider or competitor, is the horseman part. Is a little bit of a lost art, maybe even these days. But anyway, that couple of summers I spent with him led to, again, thank you to my parents, but they were able to buy one of his horses that, like, and again, it was my favorite horse at the time ever, and my best friend, and I literally will not let my boys go watch any videos of it, because they would heckle me to, it's not even, it can't be viewed in public, right? It's that bad. But I didn't know any better, and I wanted it so bad, and I was somewhat competitive in a small pond up there, so it worked. And then over the time, I got to meet some other local trainers up there, like Mike Hack, and Phil Hansen is one in particular that changed my life as well. So as I got into high school, then I would go spend my summers with Phil. And Phil, of course, he's won every NCHA event there is. He's won the Futurity, the Super Stakes, the Derby. He's Hall of Fame. He's one of the absolute top trainers in our sport, and a good friend of mine to this day. But I would literally go spend my summers with Phil and with his parents, Phil and Ruthie. So I would go to Bend, Oregon, Redmond, Prineville. They were kind of in that central Oregon area, and just again couldn't. Phil and Ruthie Hansen are two of the absolute kindest, sweetest people you'll ever meet in life. And then Phil, of course, is all those things too, but he's a phenomenal horse trainer. Like there's none better than him. Let's put it that way. And so anyway, just really got in the right, again, people looking after me. Got into some good programs with some good people, and again, all the thanks to my parents that enabled that, and let me go do that. So, and then that relationship with Phil led to him. And of course, at that time, he was just starting to come down to Texas and be competitive. And he was fairly dominant, in Oregon, Washington, Northwest, and even on the Pacific Coast. But then he ended up coming down to Texas more. And so that lots of moving parts. And we'd be here for 5 years if I wanted to thank everybody that played a role in getting me to this point today. But it, again, just very blessed to be around brilliant people that took an interest in me, and they weren't selfish with their time. And they all, that led to, it ultimately led to coming to Texas. And,
were you, when you went and stayed those summers, were you like, free help, or were you like, what were you doing? Were you having to clean stalls and do grunt work and get to ride a little bit and them help you a little bit, or?
DX Trailer Sales is based out of Lubbock, Texas, and it's definitely not just a trailer dealership. If you are involved in the Western way of life, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, they have something you need. From trailers for a day working cowboy to a full-time cattle hauler to hay trailers for a farmer or rancher to arena drags, rope and chutes, and feeders for the rodeo cowboy or cowgirl. They also deal in every kind of hay any of your animals could ever need. Literally anything you need for farming, ranching, or rodeoing, they have something for you. And it's gonna be at a super affordable price. Besides all that, everyone you deal with there is super friendly and helpful. We just got new custom flatbeds built for our pickups, and I also got probably the coolest trailer you've ever seen built. And you can stay tuned for a video we're gonna do, and it's gonna show all of that and some more of their products also. So check out DX Trailer Sales on Facebook or dxtrailers.com.
Free help, absolutely. But yeah, there was nothing beneath me. Still to this day, there's almost nothing in life that's beneath me. But yeah, it didn't matter if I was, like that summer, Phil, and of course, Phil's a brilliant man besides just horseback, but he built a house that summer. And so we'd ride horses in the morning, and then that every afternoon I would help him build his house. And then one summer he rebuilt it was an old Ford Mustang. And so, and again, he's very mechanically inclined, is an engineer by training actually, and an airplane pilot and all. I mean, he just was a very diverse person. Mm-hmm. And and again, I don't know that I realized at the time, but I look back now at myself and I feel like I'm fairly diverse too, as far as, I have a lot of eclectic things I like to do and different and unique. And so I think that again was very, transformational for me, being around somebody like that. But
you got to learn all kinds of life skills there.
Yeah. And I think there's, cutting horses is, that is I can't possibly say enough about the greatness of the cutting horse and the cutting horse industry and the sport and our family and the cutting horse family, which, a lot of those people, but it all, it's just.
Did you ever branch out to rodeo or cow horse or anything in that area? Or?
No, I never really did. As a kid, of course, I'd try to get on, I wanted to be a bronc rider. I wanted to ride bulls. I wanted to do all the things that would have ended up killing me and breaking me. But I'd love getting on steers and thought, again, I was, Chris Ledoux, I was going to be, I was sure going to be a rodeo kid, rodeo cowboy, but thankfully, God had other plans for me. So I didn't go that route.
Yeah. And then when you graduated high school, what was your plan? Was you just go straight to college? Did you think about going to work for one of these guys, or what did that look like?
Yeah, all the above. Again, thankfully, I was pretty dead set on going to college. So, but
were you already thinking of the financial advisor or like a career path, I guess?
Not really. I didn't. I was too ignorant to really even know what a financial advisor was or any of that. Like I knew just a little bit from my exposure to Dan Lufkin, but I was so naive that it wasn't real relevant. I had a shop teacher in our ag class, actually. Jimmy Johnson was his name, and he was from Texas, and he was a Texas Tech. I think he went to school at Texas Tech, and of course he had a cool accent, and he talked cool, and he had good stories, and so I became close with him in high school. and he, I think knowing him, and then I had Mrs. Clark was her name, but I had a writing teacher in high school that, and again, I don't remember all the specifics, but you would write essays, you'd write papers, and I would write about basically the cutting horse world and how it was very Texas centric then and now. And she one day after class or during class, she said, "Well, Chad, I really think you should think about going to college in Texas. Have you ever thought about that?" And it was it was forever ago, right? It's 40 years ago. And well, maybe not quite 40, but long damn time ago. And it literally, her saying that, I don't know that I had ever really thought about it until then. And I literally that day got home, got out the encyclopedia, because again, no internet, no cell phones, nothing like that, all the things that we're all spoiled with now, but literally got out the encyclopedia and started researching colleges in Texas. And I ended up going to school at TCU. And again, I should say, because it was a great business school, because it was a great private school, it was all these things, right? And it is all those things. I wouldn't trade my TCU experience for anything. But the only damn reason I picked TCU is it was 2 miles from Will Rogers Coliseum, like literally. So anything to get me closer to cutting horses, that it could have been, XYZ, any college in America. If it was that close, if there had been a closer college to the Coliseum, I'd have gone there instead. But that was the closest I could get. So that led to, again, enrolling, getting accepted, coming down here, moving 2,000 miles away from home. Like, that was so hard. I can't even imagine doing that again, or I can't imagine my kids doing that again. Credit to my parents that they encouraged me, but I would be too selfish to even want my kids to do that. I think I love them so much that I don't think I could do it, right?
Yeah,
which is terrible parenting, right? But they encouraged me to, and actually enabled me to. So and then again, Horse Connections ended up a guy, Mike Hack, who at the time was, arguably one of the most successful cutting horse trainers in our sport. He had kind of moved back to Oregon, and my senior year, I spent my summer with Mike, and he happened to know Winston Hansma, and so he called Winston and said, "Hey, there's this kid that's coming down there, and he loves these horses, and he's a pretty straight shooter, and I think if it'd mean a lot to me if you would give him a chance." And so literally my mom and I, when we drove down here, that's the first place we went to, was 3658 Bethel Road. And Paul and Winston, they welcomed me in with open arms, and they're, to this day are still, two of the most special friends, mentors, just great human beings I'll ever know in my life. Mm-hmm. So, and again, that was just blind ass luck. That there was no skill. There was no, and at the time, they were just two goofy guys from Canada that neither one of them had won the futurity yet. Neither one of them they were good people, but I'd never heard of them before. Mm-hmm. I didn't have their chatter covers on my wall. I didn't know who these people were. And again, God knew exactly. That wasn't me deciding that, or my parents, or that was, some higher power that put me in front of those two people, because they changed my life.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any friends like from home that went to TCU, or just like when you were in Fort Worth, you didn't know a soul?
There was one other girl that actually from my graduating high school class and she wasn't a horse person, and we weren't even best of friends or anything, but just randomly she ended up going to school at TCU as well. Mm-hmm. So, which was wonderful actually, because I at least had one friend down here, and a couple summers, like she drove back home with me a couple summers. We made that trip driving from, Fort Worth here back to Oregon. So so yes, I did have one friend, but that literally was it.
I think it's so cool to hear people that take that big jump, because I went to Tarleton, which was, it's like 60 miles from where I grew up, and a bunch of people from my school go, plus I rodeoed. So I already knew a bunch of people that rodeoed, but the Tarleton is cool because like really who I ended up hanging out with was from from Oregon, from New York, from California, from New Mexico. Like they're all from far off, and it's cool to hear everybody, come to Texas. And I got to grow up around this whole area the whole time, and people come from all over.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty cool. But I can't imagine. I just admire the people that make the leap to just go. I've had people on here before and heard other people talk about like, I knew one person or I didn't know anybody. I just knew that's where I needed to be. And they just go make the jump, make the trip.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's pretty amazing.
So in TCU, where did you, how did you find your way? And then how did that also, how did you get to stay involved with horses? Did you get to it all and like travel back and forth to their place or?
Yeah. So I, of course, once I got there to the Bar H Ranch, and it was kind of in its infancy. I think Winston had got there in February of 1991. Paul got there in, I want to say, April of 91. I got there in August. So it was brand new. Mm-hmm. And it literally, Nyoka Johnson, who's one of my favorite humans and a very, very close friend for life, she worked there, and she's famous in the cutting horse circle. She's just one of the most amazing people. And then Tim McLeod. So there was 4 people and myself, and then there was some barn help. But it literally the Bar H was so new that like literally the day that C.D. Olina got off the trailer as a yearling and they started him, I was there. The day that Hickapoo got off the trailer and they started, I was there. And so and that was back in the day when you didn't have 2-year-old people, but Paul and Winston, they rode their own 2-year-olds. And it was just amazing to see those 2 great men and great horsemen and great cutting horse trainers. Like I got to see a whole different side of them that in 2025 today, I don't know that you'd see that with any of my cutting horse friends, including Paul and Winston, just because I think we've all become, of course, the industry is so much bigger and we've become spoiled where, there's dedicated 2-year-old people that do that. And so,
so everything's more specialized.
Like myself, I worked some of my 2-year-olds at the ranch last week. Well, it's the first time all year I've been on them, and it's September. Right. So, but back then it was, Paul putting those first works on those 2-year-olds. And it was so again, I got to see some things that I don't know that I would get to see today in any big name program. But anyway, it just those guys, of course, they went on to, they won every cutting under the sun. Paul in particular is, might be the greatest horse trainer in the history of our sport. And I don't know if he is or isn't, but I know that there's none better than him. I'll put it that way. And even more so, he's probably the greatest human being I've ever been around in my life too. So even take away his gold buckles, take away his magic he can do horseback, he's just, again, one of the most special human beings you'll ever be around in life. Which again is way more important than gold buckles, way more important than what he does in that 2.5 minutes, way more important. I mean, and again, as a young teenager from, the middle of nowhere down here I was down here in a pool of, in a den of thieves even, right? And again, the fact that I was blessed enough and fortunate enough to have those 2 people end up being my mentors and role models it's just a divine, like there's no other explanation than somebody was looking out for me.
Could have just as easily been some sorry guys or thieves, like you said, or anything.
Yes. And I was at such an impressionable age in my life. And again, I grew up going to church. I grew up with great parents. I grew up in a very traditional family. My brother, my sister, we were very straight and square, but yet again, when you're 2,000 miles away, you can get hooked up with some unsavory characters that again, at that, when you're 19 years old, 20 years old, like it can really, I think anyway, it could have really changed my life.
Yeah.
And again, thank God I ended up where I did. And so even though again, my biggest hero was probably Bill Freeman, me and everybody else of that generation, right? And Greg Welch and people like that. And so again, I didn't end up there, but I ended up in a spot that maybe thought at the time, and I shouldn't say this, but that I would have rather been at Bill Freeman's, I thought.
You never would have asked for it.
But yet I was at a place that, I mean, again, no disrespect to anybody else in the sport, but I couldn't have possibly ended up in a better spot than I did. And so to answer your question 5 minutes later, I was very involved with the horse. Like I was out there almost every morning. So I think I had 2 different jobs in Fort Worth. I kind of worked my way through school. And so any chance I could, I'd be at the ranch. So I'd be the first one there. I'd try to be the last one to leave. So brushing, saddling, washing horses, watching, helping gather cows, whatever it was. Like I would, I mean, hell, even, hopefully someday you'll get a chance to get Paul or Winston on your podcast here, but I would wash Paul's truck. I would wash Winston's truck. I would detail it. I would clean out trailers. I mean, there's just nothing I wouldn't do to be around those guys. And again, part of it was they'd pay me a little bit of money that I needed to eat, but then also part of it was just trying to earn their respect, and just being around them was just special. So it was I mean, I wouldn't want to go repeat that time in my life, because it was, not a lot of sleep, and it was.
That's what I was going to say. You couldn't have slept much if you're going to school and doing that and working at another job.
Yeah, no, it's very different than my 2 older boys and their college experience right now. My experience was very different than theirs.
And plus, that's how far was that? Were you living at the dorms or something?
Yes.
I mean, that was 30, 45 minutes or something.
Yep. So it was a bit of a haul. And really a haul in what I was driving at the time. It was always a question whether I was going to make it. So but again, I became a pretty decent mechanic there for a while too. So I could rebuild clutches, and I could work on a Ford diesel pretty well for a long time.
Yeah. So. How was school progressing? How long did it take you to kind of find your way there, what you wanted to do, or like, did you pick a major when you went, or were you just kind of taking some classes and?
I mean, I think by then I'd kind of figured out I wanted to be something business related. So didn't know if it was going to be, accounting, finance, marketing, which direction exactly. But, so I kind of started off fairly generic, but and again, thanks to my introduction to Lufkin early on, I always kind of fancied myself a stock trader, and really I was terrible. But again, I would take some of my extra student loan money that I didn't need quite yet, or I would always try to borrow. Again, probably shouldn't say this, but I would try to borrow as much as I possibly could, and then I would try to spend as least as I possibly could. So I'd always have a few $100s left over. And so I would try to trade some stocks, actually. And again, not with any rhyme or reason, no real intention. It was kind of like going to Vegas, right? It was betting black. It was betting red. It was, and again, reading a newspaper where you're getting, old 3rd, 4th, 5th hand regurgitated information. I mean, I had no business doing it, but I was just, I thought that's what Dan Lufkin did. So that's what I'm going to do. Right. So I became kind of infatuated with the investing side.
Did you have any wins there, or were you just liked the process?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And even if I did, they were so immaterial that, I mean, you and I would just laugh about it now, but so that led me to, finance major. And then again, in the couple times I got to visit with Dan Lufkin, and then of course in my years at the Bar H there, I got to meet some just amazing people, many of which are still very close friends to this day. And I kind of started formulating this, how can I be involved in the horse world? Because again, that was always my main passion. And then how could I be a business person? But I didn't, in those days, to be a real Wall Street guy, you needed to move to New York. Well, I didn't want to do that because you couldn't be a horse guy from New York. So I had to figure out a way. I didn't want to be an investment banker. I didn't want to be an analyst. I didn't want to do the things that would make me, one, I didn't want to go to grad school. And then 2, I didn't want to have to move back to New York for 5 years or 10 years or 2 years or even 2 months, right? Although, I did spend a fair amount of time back there. Going through training classes and things, but I didn't want that lifestyle. So it took me a long time. And again, it wasn't my original thought, but there were some different people that helped me form that thought, that if I would get into the private wealth management side, that I could possibly help people manage money. I could do so from Fort Worth, Texas. I could kind of control my own schedule a little bit. I wouldn't be, I would kind of be not self-employed, but somewhat self-employed-ish, where I could, work with who I wanted, when I wanted, and if I wanted, versus being a 9-to-5 type guy where I was a junior flunky to some investment banker and pulling all-nighters, and I didn't want that lifestyle. So I was real fortunate at TCU. I guess it was my junior and senior year. I was one of, each year they allow 2 undergrad students to take part. They call it the William Connor Foundation, the Educational Investment Fund. So at the time it was very cutting edge, and TCU was one of the only ones that had it. And I think a lot of people have kind of piggybacked on that the last 30 years since I've been gone. But they basically had a big portion of the university's endowment that had been donated by, I think it was one of the Alcon founders, Alcon Labs, had donated, William Connor, he had donated, it was several $1 million. I want to say it was $5 or $6 million, but it was part of the university's endowment. But they would let this select group of, I think there was 12 kids each semester, 10 graduate students and 2 undergrads that were on that program. And I was, again, very, very blessed that I was chosen to be a part of that program. And it was amazing because we managed real money. We did research reports. We talked to analysts. We went and visited companies. We did all the things you would do as a Wall Street analyst. And again, it was real money. It wasn't pretend money, or it wasn't, hundreds of dollars like I thought I was being smart with when I was invested in my day trading, before day trading was even a thing, my extra student loans.
That reminds me, before we get too far, that I was listening to Ray Dalio the other day, and he was talking about when he got started in it. Same kind of deal. It sounds like how he picked his first stock was it was the only, I don't remember what he said it was, or if he even remembered, but it was the only thing he could buy that was under $5 a share. And he was like, he had like $1,000, or I don't remember, not a whole lot of money, but he was like, if I find something cheap like that, I can buy more shares of it. And but it ended up being some, I don't remember what it was, but that turned into like quite a bit of money. Actually, it actually ended up being a good company. It was some company that was about to go bankrupt and then got bought out, and the stock price shot way up. But he's like, how I picked it was just because it was so cheap. Yeah. But you didn't get that lucky.
No. But that led to, again, I met some great people, some of which I'm still close with today, some that ended up being, future clients of mine. And most of those people, they all went on to have, pretty successful, elaborate careers, not always Wall Street careers, but just was a real smart set of people. And I was able to, learn from those people and get in that network. And then again, I had a college roommate, George Richmond, still a good friend of mine today. He wasn't a roommate, but he was my next door neighbor. He actually, he had a chance to do an internship at Merrill Lynch, and he went to Cargill instead and did an internship at Cargill because he was from the Dakotas, and he was a farmer, and still to this day is a farmer, and a brilliant one. But he kind of had a different path, so he turned down his internship at Merrill Lynch.
That's two pretty big branches, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, but again, Cargill, you're trading commodities, and Merrill Lynch, you were trading stocks, so not as dissimilar as one might think, but very, very different though. And so he actually he had suggested to me that maybe I should go talk to them, and I did immediately. And again, it was kind of like meeting Paul and Winston versus the 10,000 other people I could have maybe met. The guy that I happened to go interview with for this lowly internship was a guy named Mark Walker. And again, one of those guys that just changed my life again. And he basically, he took my raw, very unpolished, unfiltered idea about wanting to be a cowboy, wanting to ride cutting horses, wanting to be a wealth management guy, and which at the time just sounded so bizarre, and probably still does today. But the light bulb came on, and he helped me kind of connect those dots and turned what I thought was like a silly daydream into a reality and well, hey, look, this might really work and let's think about. And so he was very influential in just helping me figure out, it's not me being the guy that should decide, today, do I buy Coca-Cola or sell Pepsi or buy IBM or Compaq Computer or whatever it was at the time. It was, hey, look, wealthy people don't want you to do that for them. Wealthy people would want you to be the conduit to introduce them to the absolute best money managers in the world that have 1,000 people like you working for them, helping to evaluate companies and evaluate opportunities. And, don't picking stocks. That's not going to get you very far. You're only as good as your last stock trade and things like that. So he really helped me. And then of course he had a very good network of, professionals, attorneys, some that I still interact with to this day, not in the wealth management world because I'm retired from that world, but people that, again, that I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for him, and people that, had helped, like the Bass family and different clients that he had at the time, that, again, they did things at a different level than anything I'd ever been exposed to. And so that was fascinating to me. And so I kind of gravitated towards him and latched onto that. And again, he was a busy, successful guy, had his own kids. He didn't need to take me on as another kid to raise, but he kind of did, much like Paul and Winston did. And so I ended up having this just brilliant mentor type employer in the wealth management world too. That was really, really for the first 5 or 6 years was very, very influential to me. And again, taught me a lot more. Again, a lot of times an internship can be just kind of a grunt position, right? But he was one of those guys that it was important to him that I left that internship as a better human being, as a better man, as a better business person, as a more educated student. And so, I mean, he put a lot more into it than most would have, I think. And again, that's one of those things that I can't ever thank that guy enough.
Do you think you because it happens to you all throughout your life, it sounds like, do you think you brought that out in people of people wanting to help you, because you just worked that hard or curious or there had to have been something that made people want to help you so much?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's something, because again, you have to have people rooting for you. You have to have people wanting to see you be successful. You have to have people in life that want to share their time. They want to share their wisdom. And I don't know why me. I pinch myself sometimes, why me? Why was I so lucky that I was the guy that ended up at, working with Paul Hansma? Why was I the guy that ended up taking the internship with Mark Walker instead of Joe Smith or Joe Blow or whoever it might have been? Why me? And again, to me, there's that's just, that's something that, that's, there's only one person knows that answer, and it's not me.
I think it's also awesome that if you read Napoleon Hill, either Outwitting the Devil, I really like that one, or Think and Grow Rich, definitive of purpose, finding your purpose in your path and being intentional about going a certain way. I think that's a lot of people's downfalls, not sitting down and being intentional with what they're doing with their life. What's your dream life? And then working towards that. You're the same way as me. I want to have enough money to go ranch and cowboy and ride horses and own a nice place and own cool stuff. How do I get that? Do I go to town and get this job? Do I go do these investments or be around these people? Whatever it is. And then, so that's what you want. And then you just start working towards it, and all these little pieces you take steps and all these pieces start kind of coming together. But I think a lot of people seeing other people and talking to other people. It's I think the first step is just sitting down and actually being intentional. What do you even want?
Yeah.
A lot of people can't even, define what success is for them. But you did. I mean, you knew, like you said, you sat down and you're how do I live this life? How do I live this lifestyle? Do I have to go be a wealth manager and do this, but I also don't want to sacrifice? I was the same way. I want all that stuff, but I'm not going to go sacrifice my life. A lot of people do, and it works out for them, but I also wanted to, live the lifestyle while I was building something, and I've kind of found that path, but I think a lot of people just don't even look. So they just take the first thing that comes their way.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they just maybe don't think big enough. They don't dream big enough. They think that stuff only happens to other people or only happens in the movies. But again, I don't know what my place or perception in the world is, but I think that I'm living my dream. I'm 52 years old today, and every day is better than the day before. I don't know that everybody gets to say that.
Yeah.
So I'm just feel very fortunate and very blessed. And again, I'm very grateful for that too. Like I know how blessed I am. I know how fortunate I am. I know how lucky I am. I count my blessings. I'm very grateful for that too. So, but yeah, I think just a lot of people don't maybe think big enough, and they think that good things are, they settle maybe.
Yeah.
They settle too quick.
So how did that progress from your internship? And I know too, you were saying that you're an introvert, and that's you're getting a job that involves sales skills, communication, and talking to people. Like, how was that, and how did your career evolve from there?
It's funny. Every brand out there claims they've built the ultimate Western performance shirt, but most of them are more involved in other industries. Finally, there's one that actually is different. Introducing Horn Knot. One detail changes the game. This has literally never been done before. A patent-pending hidden zipper pocket with an extendable lens cloth, so you can clean your shades or your phone without untucking your shirt. It's simple, smart, and practical. I also like that you can fit your phone in the front pocket. And here's what I love. Horn Knot kept their designs classic, the most traditional pearl snaps you'll find anywhere. Great colors and vintage pocket designs. These are the same shirts I wear to work in, and you've probably seen me wearing them right here on the podcast. They even built a ladies line, not fake pockets or bad fits, but real Western shirts built to flatter and function. My wife Shady shows and works in these shirts, and there's nothing else like them.
Get yours today and save 20% with code Crockett at hornknot-brkwy.com. Horn Knot and Breakaway. Learn more at hornknot-brkwy.com.
Again, I was a bit introverted, a bit shy. I didn't have many girlfriends in high school just because I was scared to talk to them. Right, I had lots of friends that were girls, but I was just very introverted, very shy, I guess. And I would say that internship probably helped me get out of my shell, because one of the things that was one of my tasks there, one of my jobs there was, I bet I made, I'm making this number up, probably 200 cold calls a day. So I would literally pick up an old school telephone and press the buttons and go off a list. And, well, hello, is Mr. Jones there? Well, this is Chad Bushaw, and I'm an intern with Merrill Lynch with Mark Walker's office in Fort Worth, Texas. How are you doing today? And again, same as today, back then it was every bit as bad. 99% of the people you call, they do not want to talk to you. They don't care what your name is. It doesn't matter if you are Donald Trump or you're the president of Goldman Sachs. Yeah. They have no interest in talking to you, right? People don't like that. To me, that tactic doesn't work. But again, Mark was too busy and too smart to do all that. Mm-hmm. But he wanted to keep me busy. And I think and again, maybe he was smart enough, he probably was, to recognize that I needed to crack out of that shell, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I would probably go rather clean stalls than I would sit there and make cold calls. It was absolutely miserable. I can't, again, because you're a clown. You're talking to these people, you're calling them up, you're interrupting their day, you're interrupting their dinner, you're waking them up, whatever it might be, and you're just trying to set up a meeting with your senior guy that you work with to talk about their money. Well, it'd be like cold calling and asking if they need a heart transplant. You don't talk to some stranger on the phone about your health. You don't talk to some stranger. And again, I know I'm wrong. There's lots of examples about why this works, and there's people who become billionaires doing this. Yeah. So there's people out there going to say, well, you're full of shit. But generally, that's not.
I would say
to
for most people, I mean, yeah, that's how I got into sales and I think that seems to be the path for most people that get into sales. It's like go make cold calls. And even though I started in insurance and like probably the same way is like they filled out something, whether in the mail or they filled out some kind of form. They wanted more information. Then you call them, they're like, no, I never filled that out. Screw you. Why are you calling me? Blah, blah, blah. You get cussed out. And
exactly.
For somebody that's new to it, you're like, oh my gosh, these people are so mean. You just leave like with your head hanging low at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, it was a terrible, miserable experience. But yet again, it was one of those that, again, if you don't feed horses, you don't clean stalls, you don't wash. I mean, if you don't understand the building blocks, you probably don't appreciate when you get higher up. If you don't go through those lower, more tedious, cumbersome tasks, right? Mm-hmm. So again, I wasn't very good at it, but after I'm making this up 6 months or a year of doing it. Well, then shoot, I got kind of funny and I got a little bit of bullshit to me and I got the gift of gab and I would start. I mean, I kind of made a game out of it, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I had a little more success and a little bit of luck. And every once in a while I would talk to somebody that actually wanted to meet with us. And so it I don't know that it worked or I was successful at it, but it taught me what not to do, I think. And so I figured, again, which led into my horse involvement. And again, the cutting horse industry is a very wealthy sport, right? There's a fairly high barrier to entry. It's a little different than almost any other equine discipline we have, in that you don't have to be wealthy, you don't have to spend a ton of money, you don't have to have expensive horses, but dang, it helps, right? So again, I was, again, through my involvement in my association with Paul and Winston and with their great reputations and their great talents, they attracted some of the wealthiest, larger breeders, owners. And then again, I was the guy that, was there maybe helping get their horse ready, or I was the guy there putting the splint boots on, or I was the guy washing their horse. And so I think, whether they liked me or whether they felt sorry for me, either way it worked, but they gave me a chance. And so that led to me getting to meet and visit with and, interview, pick their brains, get their story, get their advice. If you were me, how would you go about this? And it, again, that led to, instead of calling strangers, which is what 99.9% of suit and tie schmucks that are just, fancy dressed salespeople with all these firms with all their fake titles and all the big, fancy cards and letterhead and corner offices and all that nonsense, that I lived that life. But if you could actually go talk to horse people and they know you and they know your heart and they know your integrity and they know that you might not be the sharpest guy, but you're going to go find the sharpest guy and you're going to put them in front of that person and then let them do what they do. Not try to be the smartest guy, but try to kind of be the conduit to connect them with these. Cause there's brilliant people all over the world. Right. But and again, it's easier now, I would say, with, social media and with AI and things like that. Like, it's easier to find brilliance, but 30 years ago, it was tougher to do. Right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to remember, I graduated college in 1995. I didn't have a cell phone for 2 or 3 years after that. My senior year at TCU, which again, a very fine establishment, great college, great university. My senior year, I got my first email address. We didn't even have the internet. There was no email. I had an email address, but nobody used it. Right. Mm-hmm. So it was before cell phones, before the internet.
Information was a lot slower.
Yes. So I think I was very blessed. I was able to, through the horse connections, I was able to, I guess that was my, people that I got to deal with and again, I was very blessed. I had a few just wonderful people that gave me a chance to help them with their money when I probably sure didn't deserve it. Mm-hmm. And certainly had no money of my own, didn't have, again, who hires somebody to help them that has no wealth themselves? What could they possibly know about managing wealth? Yeah. And again, there was a few people that were either they were ignorant enough or they were kind enough to give me a chance. But either way, I'm grateful for it. And that led to, 1 or 2 people led to 2 or 3 or 4 more people. And then, so then it became a amazing, really wonderful, rewarding career. And again, for the most part, I got to deal with pretty good people. I got to deal with a lot of horse people, which that was my passion. That was my background. That was my, like I said, that was my everything was the horse world. And so I got to help people that loved horses also with their investments, with their college savings, with their retirement, with their trust funds, with their pension plans, all the different things. And it was horse people. So then it became natural. And then I think I had a really, really successful career doing that. And for the most part, enjoyed it, every aspect of it. So that's kind of, if that makes sense, how that all kind of tied together.
Yeah, no, it seems perfect because, like you said, you had that niche and you were able to combine both the worlds because the owners of those horses that had horses in training, that owned the high dollar horses, had money somewhere, and they need to deploy it somewhere to protect it, to grow it, whatever it's going to do. And like you were in that business. So.
Yes.
And it's so similar to what I've kind of been able to do with like credit card process and merchant services. Never even heard of somebody in this industry, didn't know it existed until a few years ago. But now like I'm able to use it in my niche of like feed stores, ag businesses, people involved in agriculture, horses. And it's like that, they need those services. They might as well get it from somebody that's involved in the same kind of stuff instead of, like you said, a suit and tie guy or whatever it is in the city that has no idea. It's cool to kind of find your niche. And I think it's been real cool. That's kind of what this show's about, merging the Western culture, agriculture with business, with money, finance, all that type of stuff.
You bet. It's amazing too if you and you might not know all this, so stop me if I'm repeating something that is common knowledge to the world, but it's amazing to me in our cutting horse sport. And again, through I think I was a suit and tie guy for 28 years with some of the top firms, but it's amazing to me how many just really powerful Wall Street finance executive type people loved cutting horses. Like some of the people I got to meet, for example, Tom Bailey, and I just heard yesterday that he passed away, but Tom was he passed away 3 weeks ago, I guess. But so Tom owned Racing the Cash, Iron Rose Ranch, had just a phenomenal horse program, owned some of the absolute top horses in our sport, and just a kind, sincere, wonderful man. But you know what? He was the founder of the Janus funds. So Janus at the time, during my heyday, Janus was arguably the largest, most successful mutual fund company in the history of the world. So right up there with Fidelity, with Vanguard, they were, and here's a guy that loved horses, that he was the founder. And again, I thought he was cool because he was the Janus guy. Well, he thought I was cool because I was a horse guy like he was. And he probably had never met another person in the industry that was a horse guy. So what a wonderful man he was. Again, very, very helpful to me over the years. Or a guy, John Winklereid. I don't know if you know that name, but John's a friend of mine to this day. John was the co-president at Goldman Sachs, which still to this day and forever has been one of the most influential Wall Street firms ever. John is the number 2 man at this entire firm, right? His only boss he had at the entire firm was Hank Paulson, who ended up being the Treasury Secretary. And so again, when 2008 hit and all the banks failed and Lehman Brothers and Countrywide Credit and the most Bear Stearns, Merrill Lynch, all of them, it was the biggest, horrifying thing in the history of anybody that we know, even. It was a horrible time, right? This guy is, he is in all the right, he's ruling the world basically. And it was funny because I would get occasion to talk to him, and he would give anything if he could have been at a cutting where I was. And here I was wishing I was him. Yeah. He was wishing he was me. But it's just funny that, and again, to know a guy like that and being able to get his wisdom and his knowledge I could never in a million years, if it wasn't for me being a horse guy and him being a horse guy, I never in a million years could even get a phone call through to that guy, right? And yet I could call him right now, and I'm pretty sure he'd answer the phone. And a wonderful guy. And now, of course, he runs the largest private equity fund in the entire country. So, I mean, this guy, like, he's amazing. And again, he's a friend to this day because of our connections in the horse world. And again, I could go on and on and on, but there's so many people. Another dear friend of mine, Gary Rosenbach. Gary was a partner, a co-founder of one of the largest hedge funds in the entire world. I happened to meet him, and I knew of him by reputation 10 years before I ever got to meet him. But I was at a cutting. I remember it like it was yesterday. I want to say it was 2007, and we were in Tunica, Mississippi. And I'm making this up, but not really. Like, it was back in the days when we had Blackberries, right? So now I was a Blackberry addict, right? Like there's this guy that's sitting up a couple rows and over from me, and it's the middle of winter, right? It's cold, it's freezing. This guy's sweating, and I swear there's smoke coming off his Blackberry. Like he was going so fast and talking, and I thought, man, I got to meet that guy. He's having a worse day than me. And so anyway, kind of on accident, I got to meet him later that day. And again, one of those guys that has changed my life. Like he actually became a client later on in life, and not because I was smart or brilliant, but just I think he just maybe took pity on me. But this is a guy that was one of the most powerful Wall Street legends you could ever, right up there with Dan Lufkin or any of the people I've talked about. And he's a close friend that I talk to almost every day of my life now. And even the last 4 or 5 years I've been retired, I still talk to him almost every day. Like he's just one of those guys that I never would have met if I hadn't been in that wealth management role, if I hadn't been in the horse business. And so again, I'm so grateful for the years I had and the experiences I had. And again, they weren't all good. Like I can, talk about lawsuits and broken friendships and sorry people and, all the things too.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just, I have nothing but gratitude for all my years, all my days, and the relationships that I got to meet through the wealth management world.
Yeah. Just in general, like in sales and business in general, it's cool through like my experiences and like you were just saying, but to relate, like a lot of friendships come from it. Like it starts as a business deal or transactional deal.
Yeah.
And then you become friends, but then you also, like you said, you might weed out some people that you've known a long time because their true colors come out once money gets involved a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I've said this before, like not every customer, you don't want to have every customer. Like when you're starting out, you're like anybody, you sell whatever to anybody, but then it's like, I don't know if I want to deal with that guy or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also want to talk about, so all those years, I know on Mike's podcast, you talked about you're investing that money, buying land, buying cattle, but using your income to not only fund your lifestyle, but also putting it in smart places and growing it.
Sure.
Walk us through kind of like what were you doing that? Did you have a strategy, or you just wanted more land, more cattle, and just kind of putting it there because you liked it? Or
yeah, I wish I had an answer that I could give you that made me look smart and brilliant, and I could say, well, I knew all this was going to happen, so I bought up cheap land when I could because I knew this was going to happen. Yeah. But that is just not the case. Again, because you have to remember, I was a financial advisor after 9/11, during 9/11. Like I was in my office that morning when the planes hit the towers, and you wouldn't remember this, you're too young probably, but for 3 years in a row, the S&P 500 went down every single day for 3 years in a row, double digits for 3 years in a row. So again, you talk about how demoralizing can it be to every day come into work, come into office, and you're basically not making anybody money, arguably even losing them money. Even if they owned the very best companies in the world, things went down for it was just a terrible time in American history, and in markets too. And then again, the same thing I talked about like the .com. I mean, again, there were so many of these different bubbles and crises that I lived through, and didn't just live through as a investor, but I lived through as the person that was supposed to be in charge, and the person that was supposed to know better, and the person that was supposed to shield people from these danger spots. But yet you can't shield somebody from 9/11. You can't shield somebody from when Lehman Brothers files bankruptcy in the middle of the night. You can't. I mean, there's certain things that are just so far beyond my knowledge or my control.
But for perspective, even people that had a lot of money invested then, if they just left it right, now today it's grown exponentially.
Oh yeah, in a matter of years after that, it was.
But if you look at it in a day or week or month or year or 3-year time span, it's like, holy crap. But if you looked at it through a long horizon, it was a good, whatever the investments were really good.
Absolutely. Almost without fail. I mean, good quality things always come back. And, but back to your question. So, and I had several friends that I was on the educational investment fund with, that they went and took these high tech jobs and .com companies. And there's some friends of mine that literally a couple of years into our careers, man, I thought I was really doing good because maybe I made a few $100,000 there early on, which was a lot of money then and now. But I had friends that, I mean, just their stock options would be worth tens of millions of dollars. And I thought, man, you dumbass. Here you thought you had this fancy suit and tie, glitzy Wall Street job with this big name firm and this fancy office, and but you're an idiot. Like the people that, I mean, you were smarter than this guy, and he's got tens of millions of dollars. Well, what happened is those companies, as you know, when the .com crash came along, well, those guys ended up having nothing. All that stuff was just worthless paper certificates. So they went from being, 1,000 times wealthier and smarter than me to being the opposite, like literally in a snap of snap of your finger. So that kind of scarred me, I guess, so as I had some success in the financial world, as I had success from whether it was selling horses or whatever, I never wanted to go put my own money back into paper assets. I thought I want to put it in something that I don't have to. I mean, I'm already tied to this for my profession. I don't want to. And again, I was always really careful to practice what I preach. So very rarely did I ever recommend or suggest an investment to somebody, whether it was a fund, a hedge fund, a money manager, a strategy that I didn't do myself. And I think that was part of why I was arguably successful in that career, is that I
believed in what you sold.
Absolutely. I practice what I preach, versus I think most of those people, most of your suit and tie, financial advisors, they don't have two nickels themselves to rub together, but yet they're trying to tell other people how to invest their millions of dollars. Well, no, you should eat what you kill. And I've always prided myself in that. But I also, as I had more success and as I made more money, I guess there's no other way to put it, where it sounds not crude, but I didn't want to be tied to paper assets where my worth, my value could go up and down.
You had no control over.
No control. Like I already had so many things I had no control of. I didn't want more of that. So I started buying land. Every chance I would get, and again, it might not have been very many acres or whatever, but every chance if I would, I'm using round numbers, but let's say I would make $1 million with my W-2 that year. Well, I'd put that $1 million into however many acres I could buy. Or if I would sell, again, not one horse, but a collection of horses, if I would sell $1 million worth of horses that year, I'd put it into land. So again, if I could make money off of paper certificate, or if I would make investments in stocks and they would perform well, and I would, again, using round numbers, if I would make a big figure, I would try to buy a ranch or buy acres. So it wasn't because I thought land was going to appreciate. It was just because I didn't have to think about it. I knew I could run some cows on it. You could
look at
grow
it,
some wheat. I could touch it. I could feel it. They can't take it away from me. I couldn't screw it up. My kids couldn't screw it up like it. So I kind of did it just as a default, maybe even a dumb money play, because I still invested and I did riskier things. Don't get me wrong, but with the core of it. So I just started buying land every chance I could. So I'd buy 100 acres here. I'd buy 200 here. I'd buy 50 over there. I'd buy 300 over there. And again, I'd buy ugly land because it's what I could afford. And then that led to, I had an old guy that a great neighbor and friend and client. He's passed away now, but just again, one of those Mount Rushmore type of guys for me, that he sold me his dozer. He said, Chad, don't be going and hiring somebody. Now you need to get just here, buy this dozer, and here's this guy, hire my guy. And so that led to, we made our first ranch pretty. And then I did it again, and then I needed 2 dozers. And then next thing you know, we need an excavator. Then we need it. So that led to, accumulating a lot of heavy equipment, right? And so I don't know, today I probably own, 50 pieces of Caterpillar equipment, dozers, excavators, trucks, all the things. And again, part of that was a tax savings, right? Where if you're making taxable income, you want to have some depreciable assets that you could buy to offset some of that income. But then also those assets you would buy, you could go use them to take ugly land and make it beautiful. And so that's kind of what I did. Every year I'd try to buy a ranch or 2. And then I had a good crew of people. And again, I loved running heavy equipment myself. My boys love running heavy equipment. I've always prided myself. I can run every piece of equipment that I own. Not very well, but I can run every piece of equipment that I own. And so what started as basically we would clean up ranches and make them nicer, build ponds, build roads, fix erosion, things like that, clear trees, to make them more agriculturally productive. And then that kind of became a passion, I guess. And then so once I got it, and again, I guess maybe I have a little bit of an addictive personality, but once I did that a few times, then I wanted to do it more. And then, so fast forward, to today, and we've been very blessed. We own a lot of real estate, a lot of dirt in Parker County primarily.
Yeah.
So that's been good for our cattle business, good for our equipment business. And then that's led to, again, just, met a guy one time that our kids were friends, and we were watching a football game together because our boys were together, right? And he wasn't necessarily a cowboy or anything like that. And he was kind of over at the house just because our kids were friends, and my wife had invited him over. So I was kind of, suffering through this conversation with this guy that I didn't think I would even like because he wasn't a cowboy, right? Turns out he's a great friend to this day. And he, again, changed my life in a lot of other ways. But he asked me the question one day. He said, Chad, you've got all these, you've got some beautiful land around here that, Charles Russell's told me about. And, we've hunted some of your ranches and things, but you ever think about building any houses on any of these? I'm a home builder and blah, 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 blah. And it really had never occurred to me that might be a good avenue for some of this land someday. And then again, not because I'm smart or brilliant or anything like that, but just because of blind dumbass luck. But a lot of those ranches that I had bought all those years ago ended up being basically in the path of urban growth in the city of Weatherford, the city of Fort Worth. City of Weatherford has expanded out to the city of Weatherford now. Weatherford expanded out. So all of a sudden I had ranch land that was in the middle of, very, very valuable areas that could, you could build houses there. So that, and that guy, Mike Hyde is his name, MK Homes in Weatherford. He, from that conversation, from that, event that I didn't really want to be at with him, I ended up, I met a great guy. He's a good friend to this day. And he's built, he's probably built 500 houses in my different developments over the years. And it was really the guy that kind of pioneered that thought in my head that then I've kind of gone and leveraged that thought. And so that's led to another avenue of being in the land business and the ranching business and the heavy equipment business is the development business.
Did you what was your part in it, I guess? You had all the equipment, you cleaned it up. Did you help develop it? Did you just partner with this guy? Did you build the roads and stuff with your equipment or anything like that, or how?
If you didn't hear Ben Hell's story on episode 69, you need to check it out. He's been earning trust in the cattle industry one handshake at a time since 1995 at Western Livestock. Western Livestock is proud to be family owned and operated now with 5 locations: Oklahoma City, Woodward, Comanche, and Waurika, Oklahoma, and also Knoxville, Iowa. They're proud to do business the Western way with honesty, integrity, and a handshake that still means something. You can join them ringside or stream their sales from wherever you are. Western Livestock, where a handshake is their word, cattle are money, and timing is everything. If you're looking to buy or sell, contact Ben Hale at 940-631-BEEF. That's 940-631-2333. Check them out on Facebook or westernlivestock.com. Western Livestock is now accepting consignments for their September 20th horse sale in Woodward, Oklahoma. Visit westernlivestock.com to learn more.
Pretty much I did everything. We did everything in-house. So we went, had a realtor friend of mine had introduced me to a guy at the local survey office, and he helped me plat it. And the first one we did, and it was a location that Mike thought would be the best spot to start. And so we platted it into, I don't know, I'm making this up, 50 some lots, 2-acre lots. And once I had it done, then of course nobody wanted to buy them. And so, and Mike he didn't even want to buy them himself. But he said, hey, I tell you what, why don't you put the money up? I'll build the houses. And if they make any profit, we'll split the profit. But by doing that, we'll be able to kind of set our own market. And then we can find out what these lots are really worth. We'll have to back into it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I think he finished the first house on a Friday, listed it with his daughter, his wonderful daughter, Lindsay. And by that end of that weekend, by Sunday, let's say, we had 3 full price offers on the first house that was done. So we knew our price point was good. We knew it was profitable. And again, because we controlled it, we built, beautiful homes in a part of the country that, wasn't necessarily known for having real beautiful homes. So we kind of raised the standard out there.
So y'all built like nicer, bigger houses in
Bigger,
2-acre
better,
lots.
faster,
Those are bigger lots and everything.
Yeah. So instead of doing a more production type home, we built more of a custom type home that you and I would want to live in, that our wives would want to live in. Mm-hmm. And then sure enough, there was demand for it. And now, again, I don't keep score very well, but that was literally probably 1,000 lots ago, or, at least probably a dozen developments ago. And so now that's, we do a couple a year. And in some years we do more when the timing's good and the economy's right. But here, generally, we do a couple a year. But we do everything. We build the roads, we lay them out, and I'm pretty involved in. I'm not involved in building the roads, but I'm real involved in like laying things out how I would want it, and how I try to build something where I would want to go build a home, and I would want to live, or I would want my parents to live, or I would want my good friends to live. And for the most part, I think that's been fairly successful.
Mm-hmm. Do y'all ever sell to other builders, or y'all just
primarily to other builders? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Mike and I, we just kind of did the first few to prove up the concept, and then he obviously he's a smart guy. Why would he want to split all of his profit with me just for putting the money up? So he didn't need my money anymore, and he went and did them himself. And then there's probably I'd say probably a dozen builders that have kind of followed me from development to development. And we've got a new one coming in now in Weatherford that I'm fairly certain that there'll be 3 or 4 of those builders will buy every lot in there. And occasionally we sell to individuals too, like on the custom home side, and that's always enjoyable. But primarily I kind of have a wholesale model. I'll sell lots direct to builders, and then let them go build custom or spec homes for people. And so it's a little bit of I'm a bit conflicted about it, right? Because I'm a rancher at heart, and we talked earlier about traffic, and so I can't even bitch about the traffic, because I'm part of the reason that there is traffic in Weatherford is we're enabling a lot more people to move there and appreciate how wonderful Parker County is and Weatherford is. But I can't really be a very prolific, successful rancher if I don't have that income from the development side. So again, I'm conflicted, because I'd really just as soon shut the front gate and just stay home and train horses all day. Yeah. But yet it's hard to without having an oil well or a trust fund. It's hard to do that. So I've had to kind of create my own oil well or trust fund, I guess. So
yeah, it's I've always thought it was cool, like what I've through other people, I've never met him or anything, but DR Horton, has quite a few ranches and stuff, and also America's like biggest home builder. Absolutely. At one time he was.
Absolutely.
And it's cool to have seen. I know he had a ranch in Forney, or still does, and like some of these places, I've heard the people around talk about, like he buys the whole place. It's a ranch. And then he uses the unusable, the bottom land, or, you know, something that you can't build houses on. He ranches that, and then all the good top land or road frontage or whatever builds a subdivision on, and kind of combines the two, where you can probably more than pays for the ranch land with cutting part of it off and building houses on it.
Yeah. He's a good example that I probably wouldn't have brought up proactively, but of course, yes, Donnie Horton was, of course, he passed away year before last, but he actually, because of the horses, became a friend of mine. And funny when, so true story, when he had a horse, Dual Smart Ray, that one of my favorite and closest, best friends in life, Phil Rapp, trained for him, and he won the Super Stakes on him when he was 4 years old. And I didn't know Mr. Horton at the time, but I took that chatter cover and I had a real elaborate, I had it framed for him and sent it to him as a gift, right? And it was a gift because I had the expectation that he would, you know, hey, that's very kind of you. Who are you? What do you do? Oh, you're well. I've got wealth. So thinking that would lead to, you know, I'd do something nice for him and he'd be a client, right? Like I was gonna, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Didn't work at all. And so I think he almost even ignored me, right? So it almost backfired, right? And so fast forward, let's say 5 years, I had a chance to finally meet him. And I was up in his office, and I think he had his secretary write me a note saying thank you for the picture or whatever. But I literally was in his office, and he's a great man. Like, he was so charismatic, and like there's a reason he was so successful, is he just had that magic, and he had that look in his eye. He was just special, and for whatever reason, he ended up liking me, and he turned around and he said, you see that right there? He said, you know who gave that to me? And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He said, man, that's maybe the coolest gift anybody ever did for me. Like, that's my favorite thing in my whole office. And so I thought, man, that's cool. But anyway, that led to, he and I would go to lunch. And again, he officed downtown. Actually, we were in the D.R. Horton Tower. They were the kind of the had the naming rights for the building we were in. So we would go to lunch, once a month there for a while. And then, of course, he traveled a lot, and he was a workaholic. And so it wasn't, we probably had lunch 10 times, period. But we would always go to Razoo's. That was his place. Mm-hmm. And so we'd go eat at Razoo's. So here I am across the table having lunch with this billionaire guy that's the largest, and we never did a lick of business. But you know what? He introduced me to his son, Reagan, who is a good friend to this day. And he told him, he said, Reagan, this is the only man in the horse business that I trust. He said, this guy, he said, if you ever want to get back in the horses, this is your guy. And so then, of course, that led to Reagan's daughter and Donnie's granddaughter, Madeline, who's a good friend to this day. She would come out to the ranch, and she took, we showed her how to ride horses. And then they bought one of their first cutting horses they bought from me. A couple of the boys, mares that they used to show and do well on, that they bought. And then they've raised some great babies. And so, but that, again, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a guy that I never would have met if it wasn't for horses. And he was a brilliant man. But that strategy that you talk about, I don't copy it because I'm just a little minuscule version of what he's done, but he's exactly what you said. He'll go buy ranches in the path of urban growth, and he'll farm them, he'll ranch them, it doesn't matter if it's soybeans or peanuts or hay or whatever, or he'll run cows on them. And then basically he'll make it a ranch or a farm until a point in time comes where the land's too valuable that it doesn't make any sense to run cows on it anymore. Mm-hmm. And at that point, he goes and he gets his land entitled, and he has all the, the water and the sewer and all the entitlements, and does all, brilliant man. Mm-hmm. But at that point, then he would go turn it into a development. So in a very, I hope this comes across as not braggart, but I've tried to copy that in a lot of ways in a minuscule version, where I'll buy ranches that are in locations that someday, that, they're by schools, or they're by major roads, or they're big street corners, or they're spots where, that at some point in time, maybe not in my life, but in my boys' lives, that land is going to be so darn valuable that you won't want to run cows on it anymore, or you won't want to have it be a cultivated wheat field, or like so. And that
You
again,
could sell that and go buy a big ranch somewhere.
yeah, a real ranch. So that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up, because again, in a minuscule sort of way, I've tried to mimic a lot of the things that he taught me in that regard. So that's again another relationship that I never would have had without the cutting horses. I never would have had without the wealth management background. And so that's another guy that has really, I don't think he knew he was shaping my life or shaping my, helping me formalize any thoughts, but he absolutely did. So it was a sad day when he passed, for sure.
And I want to jump into, I said we had a lot to cover, but to the whole full circle, the reason why you did all the other things to get back to have your own ranch, to have the Crown Ranch, have your own horse operation, and be able to ride cutting horses whenever you want. Tell us a little bit about how that came about, what you got going on now with that.
Willow Creek Cattle Company develops and breeds hundreds of heifers a year for their customers. They can buy, develop, and AI heifers to the bull of your choice. They're located in northeast Kansas in the heart of the Flint Hills, so they can also start and grow your grass cattle. The U.S. cow herd is currently at the lowest inventory ever recorded, and with these record high calf prices, Willow Creek Cattle Company can provide a turnkey supply of AI bred heifers to help you rebuild your herd. Give them a call for all your backgrounding and heifer development needs, 620-344-2795.
So every year it's just built and built and built. So I was very fortunate. I won the NCHA Futurity back in 2001 on a horse, Jerry's. Was a gelding that a good friend of mine had, and he had 3 that year, and he could only show 2, and so he sold me what he thought was his third best horse. Scott Ferguson is his name, and he's a dear friend of mine to this day. But so that was the first time I had ever made the Futurity finals, was the year that I actually won the Futurity. And very kind of a bittersweet thing to happen is because one of my closest friends had sold me his third horse that he couldn't show, and then I ended up beating him on his 2. I mean, he had 2 special horses that year. And again, just, cutting, there's so many variables that it wasn't, he probably had the better horses and he was probably the better showman and all the things, but just as luck would have it, I was able to win the Futurity that year on his, extra horse. Yeah. So that, and again, once you do that, then you, again, having a bit of an addictive personality, if you're going to go to a cutting and you're going to be away from your wife or family or whatever for a week, well, you might as well make it worthwhile, right? So the next year, then I had 2 horses at the Futurity, and then, so I've always tried to just keep building on that, I guess. And, so, fast forward to today, and we raise probably 20 babies a year. It's probably been 10 years since I've bought a horse. So everything we show, everything we compete on is something that was raised right on the ranch. And then, I only have a handful of mares that we own, but they're all mares that, basically either I showed or my boys showed, and they're all, the right kind that I want to ride babies out of and I want to reproduce. Mm-hmm. And so we've as the ranch has grown and as the horse business has grown, now we raise 20 babies a year that they're no better than anyone else's, but they're all, kind of first round draft picks. They're all 5-star recruits. They're the kind that most people would be lucky to have one like that in life. And I'm very fortunate I get to raise 20 like that every year.
How many of those do y'all keep, and how many do y'all sell every year?
Well, that's a delicate balance, right? As my boys have become pretty handy at this sport and they like it a lot. And there, of course, my oldest son, he's won the NCHA Futurity twice as a teenager, which, again, most people don't win it once in their whole life. And he's been very fortunate that he won it twice as a teenager on horses that I trained. And then and that's Charles Russell, my oldest son. And then my middle son, Will, he's won the world in the youth. He's won the NCHA Derby. He's won a lot of, made the non-pro futurity finals. He's both boys won the Texas High School Rodeo cutting state championships 2 years in a row, 4 years in a row, if you count them both together. But so I've been very fortunate that I can share my, my passion of cutting horses with my boys. Because again, so many of my friends don't get to do that, right? Their kids are disinterested, or the kids want to play ball. The kids want to, do different things. But I've been so blessed that my boys like to do some of the same things that I like to do, which is just amazing, because I didn't have to quit doing what I love doing to go help them chase their dreams, because their dreams were much like mine for a lot of years. So that's led to answer your question, you can only show 2 at the futurity, and I like to have 2 every year just to give me better chance. If it's fun to show 1, it's twice as fun to show 2, right? 2 good horses is twice as good as 1 good horse. And then that's led to my boys is they're pretty handy and talented, and they like it a lot. And so I've tried to have 2 for them too. So I try to end up with six 3-year-olds a year that then become 4-year-olds, and then usually we'll sell a couple. If you don't constantly sell some horses, you end up with hundreds of show horses, which doesn't make any sense. And then it turns from being fun to work really fast. And then again, if I wanted to work that hard at it, I would have been a horse trainer to begin with, and not gone the route I did. So I have to. That's a really hard thing to do, though, is because again, most people, their natural assumption is that if I have something to sell, it must not be any good. I must not want it. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Like, I've sold more good horses, great horses even, than I've kept. But it's hard. Again,
that's the business.
It's the business, but yet most people they don't understand that. They don't get that. So they think that this is a successful enough guy. If he's selling something, he must not want it anymore. So we shouldn't go look at it. And that's so just ass backwards that it makes no sense. But the people that have bought good horses from us have gone on to win world titles. They've gone on to make Hall of Fames. I mean, so I'm very self-confident that we put out a really, really good horse. Not all of them, don't get me wrong. Like, I'll train as many plugs as anybody, but the good ones that you're successful on that come through the program, they're usually pretty damn good horses. And then again, to me, there's no better feeling than having those good horses go to good homes, forever homes sometimes. And then, because I don't go to a lot of weekend cuttings, I don't go haul for the world. I don't, I pretty much have, probably 10 age events a year that I try to focus on, and with the 3 Fort Worth events being the primary ones, our Triple Crown events. So, and again, you can only show 2 at most of those. So 2 of each age group. So I raise more horses than I can consume, and I train more horses every year than I can show myself or my boys can show. So I like to think that my extra horses, oftentimes, going back to Jerry O's and my friend Scott Ferguson that sold him to me, his extra horse that year was better than anybody else's first string horse. And so
they go have success somewhere else.
I think history will judge me someday that our extra horses that I choose not to keep and show usually end up being as good as any other horses in the country. So I think that's what I hope when people think about the Crown Ranch and think about our training program and breeding program, that they think that, that's if you buy a horse that has that brand or has come through our program, whether it's a 2-year-old program or what it is, that's chances are pretty good. That's a pretty high quality, high caliber animal that you would want to own. So that's sort of our focus, I guess, these days.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, the full circle of coming around. And I say this too. I've said it before. Of like, I envy the people that can go. Like, I always just wanted to, do cowboy stuff basically. Well, you can go do that pretty easily. You just go get a ranch job and do it for somebody else. But I wanted the ownership. So going around in a roundabout way, just same as you could have been, you loved horses. You could have just been a horse trainer and rode horses all day, but you may not have owned anything. You would have had to ride somebody else's. It's cool to kind of see somebody that you had the passion for it, but you wanted to go around, you sacrifice some stuff so you could take ownership.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like me, I've found passion in business, in the money game, and it's like that's fun too, getting out and doing other things.
Yeah. I've always, and I don't think it's an original thought of mine, but I've always tried to, I don't want anybody on anything, whether it's money, horses, relationships. I never want to blame anybody else for my success or failure.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give credit to more people than I'll take credit myself, but I never want to blame anybody else for my, lack of success. So that's where I ended up for probably, 20 some years now. I've trained all my own horses, and not because I'm certainly not better than, my friends, whether it's Matt Gaines or Phil Rapp or, whoever, I can list dozens and dozens of my trainer friends that are way, way better and more talented than I am. But you know what? I don't want to ever, I love training the animals myself. I love trying to get better every year. I like trying to train full brothers and sisters and do a better job than I did the year before. I like different genetic crosses and trying to see if that was good, this might be great. Or if that was terrible, let's, so I'm challenged by that. But mainly, I don't ever want to have the option being that, well, my trainer did this or my guy didn't try hard enough. I'm the only one. Look in the mirror and it's me. So if it doesn't work, it's my fault. And that's the same thing on picking cows. It's the same thing on breeding horses. It's the same thing on developments, on anything. Like when I'm managing my own money, like still to this day, I don't have a financial advisor. I do my own work. Again, with some great help along the way. And again, our horse program doesn't run itself. I've got the absolute most amazing help you could ever, priceless, right? Whether it's 2-year-old guys, whether it's office managers, whether it's vets, whether it's horseshoers. Like, again, you brought it up earlier. I'm so blessed in life by the great resources that I've been able to surround myself with that actually make me look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more other people than it is me. But again, I want that responsibility. I want to be the one. I want to be the one that if something doesn't go good at the next show next week that we're going to, well, it's nobody's fault but mine. So, and again, that I don't know that that's in life. I think everybody always wants to blame somebody else, right? Like that's an easy deal. And I don't live that way. I want to own it and be responsible, and I'll take the bullet, I'll take the win, I'll take the credit, but I'll take the blame too.
Kind of staying on that, what do you think would be one skill to develop, to work on, to master, just to be successful in general in life?
Well, it's funny. Of course, I'm old enough now, and I've got 2 boys in college. My 2 oldest sons are in college, and my youngest is an 8th grader, Wesley. But so I guess I'm finally bald enough or gray enough that some of my boys' friends, like they'll come lean on me for advice now, which is just amazing, right? To have a beautiful young person who wants your input. And again, they're the same as I was 30 some years ago, 40. Like where I was looking to Paul Hansma, I was looking to Dan Lufkin, I was looking to whoever the person is. And now like life comes full circle where now these people are coming to me, right? And I'm like, that's, wow, you talk about flattering, you talk about, but also pressure, right? Because holy crap, like you have to be careful what you tell people because sometimes they listen. And I've got trainer friends of mine that one of them comes to mind, and he ribs me all the time about it, but he said, yeah, you remember 6 years ago, I came to you and I wanted to do this, and I said, well, and he said, Chad, what would you do? And I said, well, I'd call Taryn Rice and I'd ask him for a job and I'd go stay there as long as you possibly can. and that boy Garrett, you probably know him. He's a great kid, but he literally, he went and did it. And like, he's still there to this day. And of course he's become a really good hand and a top hand, but like, it makes me think like, holy shit, be careful what you tell people. Cause like some people might actually believe you and go do it. So, to your question. So I think the biggest thing is to just, I think networking. I think our whole world, any kind of business, whether it's development business, whether it's real estate, whether it's cattle business, ranching business, horse business. Why am I here? It's because a good friend of ours, Cody Porterfield, suggested that you and I meet. Well, we wouldn't know each other if not for that, probably. So the networking, I think, to be a good open-minded network of people. It's again, it's not so much who you know versus what you know, but who you know, it matters. I mean, you need to be sharp. You need to know, but
you need to know something, but it's also who you know.
Yeah. So I try to tell my boys' friends and my boys too. Of course, my boys won't listen like other people's kids will, but I try to tell them, I mean, one, learn to type. Typing is one of the most amazing skills ever, and it stays with you forever. And so if you can type, you can be a more effective networker and a more effective communicator. And then learn Spanish. Learn Spanish is just critical in our world, and especially in our ranching world. And that's something that young people will never get, knowing Spanish the rest of their lives. I mean, I can promise you very few things today, but that's something nobody will ever be upset that they learn Spanish. Learn to use a computer, and again, spreadsheets, Excel, Word. I mean, learn to communicate, whether it's orally, which I do a poor job of, or I'm a better, text, email, presentations, things like that. I can crush that stuff. But to just sit and have a conversation with somebody, I'm not as well spoken as I wish I was. But I think, again, if there was one thing, it's be a good networker and being open-minded to networking.
Mm-hmm. What are some? Do you have some favorite books or just resources in general that you direct people to a lot?
I don't. I probably should. Actually, I am fairly well read. Like, I love to read and I love to, but I guess in recent years I've become more of a, instead of reading business books or novels or nonfiction or I guess my attention span's probably not, I need to get maybe to a quieter place in my life before I maybe can go back to being an avid reader again. But I am a Twitter junkie, for example. Like, so I've got people I follow on our X, but I've got certain people that I follow, and of course get alerts when they have new updates and things like that. So again, I think that's such a resource that a lot of people, again, a lot of people are on social media for the wrong reasons, right? They goof off and they do silly things that are time wasters in my mind. And again, that's a frustration. So I have some social media habits too that probably aren't good, but to me, Twitter is just an amazing tool where again, you can keep up with, I mean, pick your hero, pick your person that you look up to, that you aspire to be more like. Well, most of these people, I mean, shoot, they'll tell you what they had for breakfast that day.
Yeah, they're writing their thoughts down.
Yeah, and it's, again, you don't want to know everybody's thoughts, right? But certain people that are just brilliant and smart and unique, what a way to almost be mentored by them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can see what they're thinking and what their views are on world, on politics, on religion, on of course, there's all kinds of world events going on, this month in particular. Wow, it's just and not in a good way, but yet the information flow where you can actually get real, detailed, raw, authentic news and what's really going on versus a regurgitated version of something that somebody else told you, or some university told you to think, or some news outlet told you. I mean, so to me, there's so much good about social media if you use it properly.
Yeah, it's a tool, and I've got to kind of curate my my Instagram that way to where I've never got onto Twitter that much, but like my Instagram, I only follow, business people, like inspirational, motivational people. So I get to see a lot of stuff, which also some funny stuff that the algorithm feeds me in between.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a tool. I learn a lot and make deals and find guests and a lot off social media. So
yeah. I feel like a 52-year-old college student in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, so I go about my day. I ride my horses. I run the ranch. I raise my boys. I try to be as good a husband as I can be. I need to be better at that. But like you try to run your life. But then again in the evenings, and again I'm a sports fan, so I'll watch ball games, and my sons are athletes, and my youngest in particular is a big athlete. So I love to follow sports, and we'll have our fantasy football leagues and things like that. But I also try to, generally it'll be several hours a night after the kids are asleep, and I'm not a big sleeper, but I feel like I'm basically back in college for a couple hours a night because I can look and read and see what Elon Musk is thinking and what he's talking about. I can look and see what a guy like a Wall Street legend, like a Bill Ackman is thinking and writing about. And like, and again, if you want to go become a subject matter expert at something, well, hell, it's whether it's AI or Chat GPT or Twitter. I mean, like there's so many tools at our disposal nowadays that are, I mean, it's amazing. Like the world we live in, I know there's lots of tragedies going on real time as we're filming this, but there's also, like, to me, it's what a great time to be alive too, because information flow and look what it's done to back to our cutting horse world. Like we're 2 months away from our NCHA futurity, which is, our Super Bowl, our Kentucky Derby. Like it's the most amazing event ever. And it's not just the event itself, but it's like starting right now today, it's having friends over to pre-work. It's going to buddies' places and pre-working and getting out and, trying to decide what you're going to show, what you're going to sell, what you need to tweak, what do you think this one, what? So you're like, we've never shown these horses, but my point in saying that, there are so many young trainers right now that are so damn good. And why is it that they're so good? Well, you can go watch Matt Gaines' cutting horse clinic online, typically for free. Or there's lots of great paid sites too, and people that do great work putting those on. But you can go watch a guy that, I mean, you could have been a kid like me living in Oregon, 2,000 miles away, shy, introverted, not know a thing, not have 2 nickels to rub together. And you can jump on the internet and you can watch an all-time great like a Matt Gaines or an Austin Shepard or a James Payne or pick your person. You can go watch what they do and how they get that and how they, like, you couldn't do that 20 years ago. You couldn't do that 10 years ago. You certainly couldn't do it when you and I were growing up. So what an awesome time to be alive and to be an American when you can like have resources like that at your disposal to go get, and that's just in the cutting horse world. Like you can that same great opportunity, you can expand that to any other vocation as well, any other hobby, any sport, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy all the stuff that I've learned for free out there, and I think people, I don't know if they don't realize it or what, but I mean, you can go learn how to make money, how to make a horse, do anything you want, basically for free. I mean, at some point you probably want to get some coaching, mentorship, accountability, and pay somebody to help you, but you can get pretty deep for free. And I was just thinking about this the other day, like, I see a lot of people talk about in the 50s or, whatever, how the guy could go to work and he could live a nice life on a single or single income and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I'm like, and how much the dollar and everything's like lost value. And I'm like, but also it has never been easier for you to go out and make yourself better and learn how to make 6 or 7 figures or whatever. You could still live off a single income if you just go increase your value to the world and make more money,
Yeah.
People do it all the time.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, those are the people looking at the future, living in the future, living in the now, instead of being like, I used to be so good back then. And, life was so easy, but it can also be easy now.
Yeah.
And now we live in the time where, kind of like you said, and kind of like the lifestyle I live, like you didn't have to be in an office all the time. You could get a job or a vocation or career or whatever where you could have freedom and actually do what live a lifestyle you wanted to.
Yeah. No, it's those 2 devices right there that nobody can see, but that iPad and that phone, I can do, I can do everything right there off of those 2 little simple devices, inexpensive, that I could do in my office, back at Morgan Stanley all those years on the 21st floor and fancy this and fancy that. Well, this is a smarter computer than I had. I have more resources right here than I did then. I can be at a cutting horse show in Augusta, Georgia or Las Vegas, Nevada and have the same information as I do at my home office.
Right.
It's just, you can be out feeding a set of cows and have, I
do that a lot. We've been pinning cows and I'm on the phone helping somebody with a problem or, working on a business deal or, something. And I don't even have a kind of like you said. I mean, but I don't even have a computer. I borrow my wife sometimes, but I run pretty much everything I do just from my phone.
Yep. Now, technology, again, there's lots of ways people can let technology ruin your life too, but technology is such a blessing. Like, embrace it and try to figure out how to make your world better, make your family better, make your lives better, make your financial situation better. Like, just, it's a wonderful thing. Embrace it, own it. Like, it's here.
And we always got to wrap up with the hardest question of the show. What's your favorite restaurant?
You know, I've listened to your show a fair amount, and I knew that was coming, but I haven't thought about it. You know, my go-to place here the last couple of years, and again, Fort Worth to me is the greatest city in the world. Like, I'm fairly well traveled. I've been all over the United States, and I'm you can tell I like to eat, but probably my favorite go-to spot in Fort Worth for several years now has been Pacific Table. So I don't know if you get there ever, but
never heard of that.
I'll take you my treat sometime, but it's good. And part of that, I guess, is trying to eat healthier in my twilight years and eat more fish and things.
Yeah.
But it's just a good place. And of course, it's close to the Coliseum, so it's an easy spot to go grab lunch during a cutting. It's an easy spot to run. So back in my suit and tie days, I was a Del Frisco's junkie. So that was but I think I just wore it out. Like, we had so many dinners there, so many parties there, I mean, it was such a, like, I was first name basis with everybody in that restaurant for probably 10 years.
Had to change it up.
Yeah, and so now it's to think about going and having a 2 or 3 hour dinner is just like unimaginable to me. Like, I don't have patience for that. There's so many things I'd rather be doing, but I think any place where you can go be with your family. So, and again, with having 2 boys that are out of the house now, like, any restaurant where I can go be with my beautiful wife and our 3 wonderful boys, like, it could be Dairy Queen, and I'm happy. So,
yeah, that's cool.
What about you?
Del Frisco's is one that if we come up here and go out for something fancy, Del Frisco's definitely a good one. Always trying something new though. So we have a hard time of, do we stick with what we know is good or go try something new? Yeah. And maybe get disappointed.
We've got, someday I hope you'll come to the ranch, but I'll have a couple of babysitter steers every year. And of course we'll raise 12 or 1,300 calves a year. So, I mean, we have a fairly decent sized cattle program, which, as you know, this last couple of years, for the first time in my life, is actually a good business. So instead of it being a afterthought or now it's actually, wow, it's pretty amazing, right? When you're selling $2,500 and $3,000 weaned heifers and steers, like, wow, why wasn't I doing this more? But anyway, my point is, so in the cutting horse business, we'll generally have a babysitter steer or 2, and so we'll butcher those steers every year, and they're like, my wife and I,
rather eat at home.
And she's a ranchy girl. Like, she's born and raised. I mean, her parents are cattle people to their core, right? And her brothers, and I mean, they're the most cattle centric family you've ever been around. And so we're beef eaters, right? And you almost can't go at any restaurant, buy the caliber of beef that you can raise yourself if you have the right genetics and so we've got to where it's hard to go eat steak at restaurants just because it's hard to match that quality that we can raise at the ranch. So
for sure.
So that's a very new thing for me too that I enjoy.
I'm the same way. How can people, I know I've seen it on Facebook, y'all got a Crown Ranch Facebook to keep up with that. How can people keep up with you, follow your businesses?
Well, they probably can't very easily, so, and I kind of like it that way, but you can Google me and find me real easy. And our ranch website, I don't keep it real current, and I try not to ever, you'll never see anything on our Facebook, and I'm not even on Facebook, but my wife is, but I've got a lady that helps kind of manage our page, but I'll never let her, like, you'll never see something about me on any
Yeah.
on anything like that. So I'll brag on my boys and I'll brag on people that buy my horses, but I just don't want to ever have, again, so many of our trainer friends, it's just they post the same silly things over and over and over again. It all runs together. And so I just, you'll never see anything, congratulations to myself that I'm not that kind of guy, but I'm pretty easy to track down, and I'm not real good at talking on the phone, but I'm a text message junkie and email junkie, and we have a ranch website, crownranchlp.com, that we don't keep real current, but it's we'll update it a couple times a year. And of course, now with the NCHA futurity sales coming up, we'll have some hopefully some really good 2-year-olds and maybe a few show horses in there too. So we kind of get active once a year during the sales to kind of get word out on what we have to offer. But other than that, we're pretty stagnant, because it's not necessarily it's a family business, but it's not necessarily how I make a living. So I try not to treat it like that. But not to say I'm not very prideful about our brand and our legacy and my family, and but there's hopefully other people are promoting us and not promoting ourselves, I guess.
Yeah.
So
the brand speaks for itself.
Hopefully. I mean, time will tell, but I'm very prideful with my horses and our program, and whether it's our training or breeding, or I'm very, very, very prideful about that, and very proud even of what we've done, and hopefully the best years are yet to come.
Yeah. Well, y'all go check them out. Keep up with the page, the website, the Crown Ranch, and hopefully you got value out of this conversation. I know I did, and go share it out. Even if you didn't get any value, share it out anyway, because somebody else might get it. So share it out, and we'll see y'all next time.
As a business owner, Google reviews can make or break you. The problem? Happy customers don't always speak up, and the few bad ones can drag you down fast. That's why we built Review Wizard, a free tool that makes getting 5-star reviews simple. Just post a QR code in your business, customers can scan it, and in seconds they leave you a review. But that's just the start. Review Wizard helps you respond to customers automatically, share reviews straight to social media, and even add them to your website to build instant trust. Every new review boosts your Google SEO ranking, making it easier for new customers to find you online. And if you want to take it to the next level, our AI upgrade can filter out the bad reviews before they hit your page and engage with your customers so you don't lose them. That means more good reviews, less damage control, and stronger relationships. The best part, the base version is completely free. No catch. Just click the link below and start turning your happy customers into your best marketing team today.